So Jett Lawrence, the night started off right. I mean, he was able to get him a heat race victory. Little chaos going on, little Jason Anderson, and we had the fever. People was getting sick out there because Mookie Fever showed back up, which is good to see. And it kind of brought me back to the old school, what happened a couple years ago with Malcolm and Jason, being there together. But they had another issue. It was the 18. So yeah, a lot of stuff was going on in that heat race. Jason Anderson out front. Jett comes in. Um, Racing incident. Jason cuts down. Jett runs into him. Jason cuts him off because he's upset. You know how El Hombre is in his airspace. He's going to shoot you. But I think that was clearly a racing incident. Jett was trying to come in and like run it in on Jason, but he wasn't trying to actually run in on Jason, if that makes sense. And then allowed my brother to get past, and then they kind of went back and forth. But Jett, the difference to me from this weekend and what we saw even outdoors, the way he rode that heat race was kind of the way you expected him to be able to ride basically all year long. All these things are happening, but he just kind of sits back, regroups, and he's able to make his way back up. And I think for him, there's these guys are good, and there's a lot of other things that's happening, other things that are causing him to maybe make some mistakes and whatnots. But overall, the night started off good for him. He was able to get through that heat race, and then he was out front in the main event, and it looked like Jett Lawrence was going to kind of do what Jett Lawrence was going to do. I believe his only problem was the guy that became his problem, and that was the guy in second. I think if anybody else was in second, I think Jett would end up winning that race. I don't think the fact is when he pulled away, and I believe if it was Chase, when you race guys, you kind of know their tendencies. So okay, all right, at this point of the race, all right, if I got Ken behind me, if he hasn't caught me by now, he probably ain't gonna catch me, because that'd be doing something that he normally doesn't do and coming a late charge. And the way Eli's been riding all year, all right, maybe beast mode, he could come back, but I haven't really seen it. And then, all right, Chase, again, I've been there, done that, so I know. But Cooper Webb, you just know, dang, he's still within 5 seconds, and it's 10 minutes into it. And I think that changes a lot of things. And as I said, I believe if it was anybody else besides Cooper Webb, not saying that Jett made a mistake because of Cooper Webb, but I don't think he would have been in that situation. I think the way the way Jett rides and him knowing kind of the surroundings, again, I don't think he would have been in that spot, period. So because it was Cooper Webb, I believe ends up catching off Jett, and then he goes down, and then the race is on. And I also believe because Cooper Webb was in second, he's really the only guy that can inherit a lead and feel like it's kind of like the Brinks truck a couple weeks ago with RJ. You're going to open the truck, all the money's going to fall out. Well, Cooper Webb believed that money was his. Like, the money that was in his truck, that was his money to start with. So my point is, when he inherited that lead, he's like the one rider that would feel like, well, I've been the best all night. Like, you should be behind me. And he can handle that pressure to where he wouldn't feel like, okay, I just got it gifted. This guy's actually catching me back up, and he's probably just going to pass me because he's the best guy anyway. Cooper Webb don't think that way. He think he's been the best. He let Jett go out because he knew Jett was going to fall, and Jett did what he thought he was going to do, and Cooper's back where he belongs, and Jett was going to have a hard time trying to pass him. That's why I think the next mistake ends up happening with Jett for two reasons. Bike setup, and then also because it was Cooper Webb being just so stubborn. So the first crash, you can almost, it's a weird thing to say, because it looks like, okay, when you get in those rhythm sections, a bike's being a little bit stiffer can obviously, it allow him to be able to not have the thing bottom off and shoot off. The problem is, like, with those G outs, once that bike gets bottomed out, it's kind of like, if you ever been on a rod in an amusement park, the ones that spin, the gravity, where you get kind of stuck on against the wall, like the gravity. Well, when you get in those hard G outs, once that bike gets bottomed out, whatever way you're kind of leaning, that's the way the bike's going to go. And so saying that, you would think that the bike could be too soft. And once he gets in there, it bottoms out, he's got his weight, and it can shoot off. Well, I believe what happens with Jett, we've been talking about his bike being stiff, and I know this because this is one of the issues that I have in particular parts of the sections in the rhythm sections, when you get a bike that's actually too stiff, where I feel like what ends up happening with Jett, like he jumps over that backside of that tabletop, and what happens is like the bike bottoms out, and because it's so stiff, it actually starts rebounding. The one part with a stiff motorcycle, and especially a front end, the front end starts rebounding up. So I believe what's ended up happening, Jett goes over the backside of that tabletop, he gets in, the back end stays somewhat down, the front end starting to push back up, which pushes more weight on the back end, and he's leaning or not properly, I guess, aim where he wants to go. It's easy for him to just jump off the racetrack. And all that's caused because it could be because the bike lands in there, and because his motorcycle is stiffer than most guys, the thing starts shooting back and his weight's not properly, and he's shooting towards the popcorn stand.
Emotional, damn it!
And he jumps off the racetrack. So as you would think that it would be too soft, it actually could be the opposite, where a bike could be too stiff that can actually cause that crash. But going to the flip side, what we saw with Austin Forkner, because his bike is stiff, allows Jett to do exactly what Austin did, come up short on the backside of that tabletop. But because the front end rebounds so quickly, it allows him to just keep pushing through the rhythm section and not have his hand blow off. The difference between those two is because one is at a slower pace, which is why he ends up kind of jumping off the track. If you look at that, that was a slower part of the rhythm section. It was more in the beginning, where the other one, he actually is going in really fast. And I think that's why one can work in one area and the other one can't. So again, the mistake was a simple racing mistake. We saw what happened. Malcolm jumped off the track last year. Guys do that. But a lot of times when you look at Jett, I know Jett would go back and you'd be like, yeah, the thing's coming back up at me and I'm not properly lined up. I'm going to jump off the racetrack. It is a racing thing. And it's just something that you really don't think about until it happens, and you go like, damn, it got me. So that one was, again, racing. The next one is somewhat of the same deal. We talked about the thing was like, it looked like Jett just ran into the dude. Like when he was trying to catch him past Cooper Webb, it looks like he just runs into the dude. But technically he does just kind of run into the dude. But what's ended up happening, when you watch Jett go through that whoop section, as he's on the gas, his bike is okay. Like it looks fine. As he starts getting off the gas, if you notice, the bike start dancing around. So Jett doesn't have a choice. Like he really can't get off the gas, which makes him have to stay on it because the bike's dancing around. You got Cooper Webb on the right side of you trying to close you down, and this lapper in the front of you. So as simple as it looks, we're like, dang, why didn't he just slow down? Or he tries to do that, the back end starts dancing out, so he gets on the gas, and then he ends up running in the back of the dude. So that was just caused by, again, kind of a bike setup. Same thing we were talking about in Anaheim with him. But overall, those crashes were something that I would say Jett's not going to change his motorcycle. I don't even believe that there's some problem that he should change it to avoid those crashes. I just think the situation, and again, Cooper Webb kind of being there and where he was in the race, like he had to make the choice. But before people say like he kind of lost his mind and he just ran into the back of the dude, well, there's a little bit more into it than just that. But he just kind of lost his mind, ran in the back of the dude. But, you know, Jett, he all right. He all right. I think for him, he was bummed. Of course, I think for us, probably the best thing that happens, like, all right, just makes the racing more interested. But I think Jett Lawrence is fine. And, you know, I think this weekend with Cooper, with Tomac and Jett, I think he'll be back for vengeance. And I think we're going to have a great race at Daytona.